Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back again to our ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Happy to be with you. Namo Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Devishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarne. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Well, we're back in the Vrindavan forest today, just where we want to be. And we're going to continue with our wanderings. We've been using this term wandering, as you know, for the last few weeks, as we visit different holy places in the Dham. However, I think we can all agree we're not yet satisfied in our wanderings because we know there's so much more to see. So much more to see. And Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, who we love to quote, he expresses this wandering, this sentiment of not being satisfied although we wander all over Vrindavan. Very nicely in one of his verses in his Sri Vrindavan Mahimamrita, in the chapter Chaturtam Shatakam. He puts it very beautifully. And I quote, O dearest Vrindavan, full of the highest bliss, if I see the beauty of your moving and non-moving beings with millions of spiritual eyes, if I smell your fragrance with millions of noses, if I hear about your qualities with many ears, if I wander within you by millions of feet and offer respects to you with millions of hands and heads, I will still not be satisfied. Yes, we understand. So in our last wanderings, you may remember we finished at a place called Parehi, where Krishna told the gopis that if they continued to tease him, they wouldn't see him anymore. So those lovely milkmaids, they surrendered by saying, Shamsundar, it will always be as you wish. So from that famous place, Parehi, we're going to proceed some distance away, a couple kilometers away, to a place that's famous. It's called Pai and Chalanashila. Pai and Chalanashila. These are two sacred places that are connected together in one particular pastime. And what is that pastime? It's a game of hide and seek. I don't need to explain what is hide and seek. We were all children. In which Srimati Radharani finds Krishna. She catches Krishna. Now it's interesting that the Shastra says that both the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls play hide and seek when they're young. They're very young. But they continue to play this game and other games in their adolescence as well. But the acharyas point out that the difference in their childhood games and the same games, like hide and seek, played during adolescence, is that in adolescence, a, quote, amorous, loving mood adds a dimension that makes such games more relishable. Just add the love. The same game becomes more relishable. And because these games in adolescence are permeated by such love, it's described, they contain ecstasies that cannot be experienced in childhood. An acharya puts it very nicely, I'll quote him. The enjoyment that Radha and Krishna derive from playing children's games in their adolescence is greater than when they played those games when they were children because of bhav, because of love. It's interesting, Srila Rupa Goswami states that Krishna goes through 3 ages before reaching adulthood, which include his childhood and his adolescence, actually, because he's considered an adult when he reaches 16. It's so detailed, Krishna consciousness. We know so many things about God, and the more we know about him, because he's all attractive, the more we can love him. So we thank Srila Rupa Goswami for revealing so much. And these three ages that Krishna matures through, they're called childhood, which is Komara, boyhood, which is Pagonda, and youth, which is Kaishora. And each of these three stages lasts 5 years. 3 stages each last 5 years. So Krishna's childhood, Komara, lasts when he's between 1 and 5, and his boyhood, Pagonda, is from 6 to 10, and his youth, Kaishora, lasts from 11 until 15 years of age, completely through the 15th year. And Rupa Goswami states that just before Krishna reaches the age of 16, his body stops aging, quote unquote, aging, because his aging is not like our aging, because his form is completely spiritual. It's made of spiritual energy, so it's different. But he stops aging when he reaches the age of 16. And he remains that age. Just like Prabhupada said, you'll never see I've heard him say many times in lectures, you'll never see a picture of Krishna older than 16. Not like God, with all due respect, is depicted in other religious traditions as very old. Although he is the oldest person, Krishna remains a fresh youth. And therefore devotional scholars say that Krishna is Nayovana, eternally a fresh youth whose transcendental body never deteriorates. A little more information on this subject before we discuss the hide-and-seek pastime, because it's so fascinating. Rupa Goswami goes on to say that devotees attracted to the parental rasa, the vatsalya rasa, they're attracted to Krishna's childhood pastimes, Komara. Those who are attracted to his friendship pastimes, Sakya, are fond of his boyhood, Pagonda pastimes. And devotees inclined to enjoy amorous pastimes with Krishna are attracted to his youth, Kaishora pastimes. And Rupa Goswami shares an interesting note. He says that of these 3 different ages, this Kaishora, this youth, it's actually appreciated by all devotees. He says, regardless of their transcendental relationship with Krishna, everyone likes him in his youth. And he also writes that, quote, youth is the only age Krishna displays pastimes outside of Vrindavan, such as Mathura and Dwarka. A little obvious, because as a child he wouldn't go. So youth is the only age Krishna displays pastimes outside of Braj, such as Mathura and Dwarka. Now, one more interesting note is that each of these primary ages I described are further divided into 3 sub-periods. Each of those 3 is divided into 3 sub-periods, each lasting 1 year and 8 months. They're called Adya beginning, Madhya middle, and Shesha end. And Krishna displays unique characteristics in each of these sub-periods. I was going to go on, actually I'd planned to go on, but I think that we can discuss this in more detail maybe in our next class, because there's a lot of information. The different characteristics Krishna has in these sub-periods of these 3 primary ages. Anyway, let's get on to some Leela. We'll get back to Pai and Chalana Shila. So the word Pai means to get, or you could say to find. And in Vrindavan pastimes, there's a game called Pai, which is equivalent, of course, to our Western game of hide and seek, where one person tries to get or find other persons, friends who are hiding. And Krishna and the gopis, now in adolescence, Krishna and the gopis played this game in a very dense forest, now known by the name Pi, to find. Of course, again, we're familiar with this game, where everyone goes and hides, and one person has to go and try to find them all. So one day in this particular place called Pi, Radharani was chosen to find everyone. So Krishna and all the gopis, Radharani closed her eyes. You close your eyes, and everyone runs. So all the gopis ran. They hid, behind trees and bushes and boulders. And Krishna also went and hid. So then when everything was ready, Radharani uncovered her eyes. And the acharyas say that naturally, Shri Radha felt like ignoring everyone else only to go and look for Krishna. In her heart, she just wanted to go and find Krishna. Forget everybody else. Well, not forget them, but that's the nature of her heart. But they say that to play along with everyone, she first found Chitra, then she found Lalita, then she found Taralakshi. She found so many Sakhis and gopis and like this. And it's nicely described that she was able to find very easily these hidden gopis because of three things. Because she's very intimate with them and they're very intimate with her. So she found them quite easily. Why? Three things. So beautiful. By their unique fragrance, by their effulgence, and sometimes by their giggles. By their unique fragrance, by their effulgence, and sometimes by their giggles. So when she found everybody, everyone was satisfied, she played the game right, then her heart's desire became manifest. Anapayini is one name of Radha. It means that she'd never really separated from Krishna. So Radha set out to catch Krishna, to find Krishna. And the acharyas say that she was aware that he would be difficult to find because, somehow she knew that he could hide himself even within an atom. So what she did is she decided to lure him into the open, meaning instead of her going to find him, she would bring him out of his hiding place. And how would she do that? Rupa Goswami says, with her transcendental feminine charms. He says, in pursuit of victory, Shri Radha employed her bodily effulgence, her natural beauty, her tinkling ornaments, and above all, this is my favorite, the sound of her voice singing Krishna's sweet holy names. However, it's described he'd hidden himself very well. He'd actually gone to the top of a nearby hill, a little rocky area, and he crouched behind a bush. And from there, it's described that he could see every one of Radharani's movements. And as she moved, he would shift locations so she couldn't find him, until he finally saw her getting closer. Now it's said that when she came very close, the very sight of her beauty, her soothing effulgence, and above all the sound of her chanting his names, all combined to freeze him on the spot. He was shifting. When he saw her and observed her soothing effulgence and her voice permeated with Mahabhav, chanting his names, he just froze. He wanted to run away, but try as he might, he was unable to move. So then it's described He attempted to crawl away, Krishna, on his hands and feet, but they also froze. And with great effort, he was finally able to stand up and hoping to run away. But he took one more glance at Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, and Krishna's whole body went numb with ecstasy. With ecstasy. And the other acharyas say that it was only with great difficulty Krishna managed to turn his eyes away from Sri Radha for a moment and slightly get his arms and legs moving. But then, quote, the spell cast by the mystical chanting of Srimati Radharani, chanting his names, rolling off her lips would not let him move. Rolling off her lips would not let him move. So now all the gopis, of course, they'd already been found and they were really enjoying this. It said, seeing all this, all the gopis watched in amazement. Some laughed out loud, and others laughed so hard they were holding their sides. Seeing Krishna frozen on top of that hill, with how's it described? Radharani stealthily approaching him. That's how the translator gave it, stealthily approaching him. All the while, chanting his and her names, like we do. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O my Lord Krishna, O energy of the Lord, Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your service. Or as I've said many times, Prabhupada one time explained the meaning of the mantra, actually at a public lecture. What does this Hare Krishna mantra mean, he said? It means, my friend, my friend, my friend. That's my favorite. And when you chant like that, that's really chanting from the heart. So she's stealthily approaching him. And the Shastra goes on to say that Krishna was like a deer, mesmerized by a hunter's flute song. We don't see this, of course, in these days, but it appears there was a time when hunters would call the deer with a flute. So Krishna was like a deer mesmerized by the hunter's flute song. And in that way, his ears, it's described, his ears twitched at the sound of Sri Radha's voice, just like those of a deer twitch upon a hearing the hunter's flute playing. So, unable to move. Now, there's a word here. Unable to move. The word is chalana. Chalana is used. Unable to move. Krishna stood helplessly on a particular stone on top of this hill. Remember I mentioned it was rocky. Chalana, he couldn't move, standing on a stone which is Shila. So the Chalana Shila, that stone he was standing on, frozen, he couldn't move, that became a very famous place. Devotees go there to see that stone. Krishna was frozen in ecstasy of his association with Srimati Radharani. On the Shila, he was frozen. So Chalana Shila, where Krishna stood, unable to move. My dear devotees, we have another place to visit. Another mystical place to visit, permeated with so much love in Vrindavan. We will put that on our list to visit on our next Kartik Parikrama, Chalana Shila. So when Radharani finally reached Krishna, she placed her hand on his arm and announced very loudly, to the ecstasy of the gopis, Krishna, you are caught. Krishna, you are caught. So Krishna, he complained. I was reading. Krishna, he accused Radharani of cheating because she used her sweet voice to catch him. The idea is you're just supposed to go out and look for somebody, not lure them out not freeze them. He said, you cheated, you used your sweet voice. But then all the gopis, they came around Radharani and they defended her. They all said to Krishna, there's nothing in the rules of this game that says one cannot employ the chanting of mantras. So it was one against all. And Krishna very happily admitted that he had been defeated by the love of Srimati Radharani, Radha Bhav. And then still, frozen there, really. All he could do was talk a little bit. You cheated. You showing my name. He's still frozen, can't move. So Krishna pleaded, my dearest Radha, I have one request. So she said, yes, my dear, what is it? So Krishna said, please stop chanting my name so I can start moving again. So she stopped singing and Krishna came out of that, frozen in love. Please stop chanting so I can start moving again. Hare Krishna. Isn't that a wonderful pastime? Let's keep wandering. According to my godbrother Sri Vrindavan Swami in his books, which I often consult, he writes there's 60 billion holy places in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Of course, not all of them have been revealed, but I'm sure that as we progress in Krishna consciousness, all these things will be revealed by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Six Goswamis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the path back home. So next we'll move on to another sacred place, not too far away from Chalana Shila in Pai. The place is called Letari, Letari, Letari. You can write that one down. Where one day the cowherd boys, how's it described? Exhausted from herding cows and collecting stray calves, decided they couldn't go on. They couldn't go on any further. They got exhausted. That day, the boys had herded their cows from one Vrindavan forest to the next. I was reading, while picking flowers along the way and stringing garlands, guess who for? For Krishna. Isn't that wonderful? They're herding their cows and they're picking flowers. All the way they're making garlands and putting them on Krishna like this. And they're also they would also collect mineral dyes to use for painting their bodies. And it's described that each cowherd boy would control his own herd of cows. Get this. He would control his own herd of cows by playing his flute and blowing his horn, while at the same time staying as close to Krishna as possible. Isn't that sweet? Well, entertaining Krishna with three things: jokes, funny faces, and gifts of fruit. These are things we have to learn. We want to become Krishna's servants, so we can learn from the boys. They're herding their cows, blowing their bugles, their flutes, they're very expert, their sticks, but somehow or other they all manage to be near Krishna and entertaining him at the same time, because he's the love of their lives, with jokes, funny faces, and gifts of fruit. And on this particular day, this one particular day, all of a sudden, one of the boys said, "Dear Krishna, our bodies have become lean from hunger, and our throats parched from thirst. Why don't we open our lunch packs and satisfy the urgent demands of our bellies?" It's so nice how the acharyas put it. So the acharyas, they explain, quote, "The gopas were, or are, eternal companions of the Lord with spiritual bodies. But in their roles as human boys in this world, they felt exhausted and hungry from playing all day, and so they appealed to Krishna. And it's all part of the Leela, because this also takes place in the spiritual world. So Krishna, feeling as though he also had an empty stomach and weary limbs, he exclaimed, "Wonderful, wonderful boys, what a wonderful proposal. Let's select a suitable place and see what our mothers packed for lunch." So all the boys yelled, "Jai, Jai, Jai." And they selected a very shaded meadow under a banyan tree in Letari, where they sat in a big circle. We've discussed some cowherd boy pastimes before, and we mentioned how when they take lunch, they sit in circles, and Krishna's in the middle, Krishna's in the center. So they did this again. They do it every day. And then the fun began. So what was the fun? Another 3 items to their fun. Their fun was that they raided each other's lunch packs. Prabhupada discusses that very nicely in Krishna book, how they're going out to the forest and they're stealing each other's lunch packs. That's a big thing for boys, because their lunch, they know they're going to be hungry, and their mothers pack the best lunches, so someone steals it, and they get it back and they steal, these are boys. Boys will be boys. So the fun was they started stealing each other's lunch packs. They started joking amongst themselves. And they all begged for a morsel of the food that Krishna had tasted. They're, rabble-rousing around and taking in the lunch packs and joking. And then they're very eager to get one morsel of the food that Krishna had tasted. So finally one boy spoke up. Quote, "Dear Gopal, no doubt you have attained mystic powers as a result of Mother Yasoda's cooking. Otherwise, what difference is there between you and us?" The Yogamaya. "Dear Gopal, no doubt you have attained mystic powers as a result of Mother Yasoda's cooking. Otherwise, what difference is there between you and us? So don't be miserly, Krishna. Share some of your lunch with us so that we can also kill demons. That way we can save you the trouble, my friend." So all the boys applauded, "Yay, yay." And everyone scrambled to take food from Krishna's plate. So after eating, the boys, what did they do? Oh, they drank water from a nearby pond and then rested in the shade. Well, some boys fed Krishna betel nut. Other boys massaged his lotus feet. And still others, they cooled him by waving a peacock fan. So such is the daily, simple life in rural Vrindavan for Krishna and his friends. We often say that the playground of God, the playground of God. And that is the life that we should aspire for. This is very nicely described in the Naradiya Purana. The Naradiya Purana. I found this verse. It's encouraging us. In the same. Living this rural life in Braj, hankering for that, to be with Krishna. Braja nushari bhavena, yena kena sadakaha, bhajitva madgatim prapya, kriyayushte mahashaha. Listen to this. Quote. This is Krishna speaking. Those who worship me by a particular bhava, following after the people of Braja, attain my abode and play with me. I think that's going to become one of my favorite verses. Those who worship me by a particular bhav, following after the people of Braj, attain my abode and play with me. Hare Krishna. Now, a little more. Just south of Letari is Rasholi. On the map, I find these places. Rasholi. And Rasholi is named after a rasa dance Krishna enacted there on the bank of a lake called Rasakund, beneath a large banyan tree. This rasa dance took place the bank of a lake called Rasakund, beneath a large banyan tree whose hanging roots spread out in all directions. You know, this is the phenomena of a banyan tree. It's planted, the roots go downwards, but then the tree grows, and from the tree branches, roots come down and go into the ground again. And this way the banyan tree can extend for many 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters. Sometimes I've heard of banyan trees extending for miles, because that's how they grow. The roots are there, but then the tree grows, and then the branches become roots. They grow into the ground, and it gets bigger and bigger. This is a banyan tree. So this rasa dance took place beneath a large banyan tree whose quote-unquote hanging roots spread out in all directions. Now this particular banyan tree played an important part of the rasa dance, for its upper branches, the higher branches, not only provided cover from the hot sun, but its maze of hanging roots added variety to the dancers' movements. You can imagine, they're all dancing under this banyan tree, but all these hanging roots are there, so they have to, the idea is it's a maze, they have to dance, in between and around all these hanging roots. Special Rasa Leela dance. In other rasa dances, the dancers generally move in one or many concentric circles. It's quite simple. One circle's going this way, another circle's going the other way, then the other circle goes out like this, like you see waves, you throw a rock into the water, and the waves make concentric circles. So in Rasa Leela, those circles are going in different directions, the Rasa Leela. But this particular Rasholi, they twisted the circles of dancers. They twisted and they wove in a zigzag pattern through and around all these tangling, hanging roots of this gigantic tree. You can imagine. That's the Rasa Leela. They're all going. It's not like a circle like this. They're all together, but they're going, winding through. And the acharyas say that despite the unusual patterns of this particular Rasa Leela dancing at Rasholi, the singing, the steps, and the music were the same as any other rasa dance. And it was, and as such, it was the same bliss felt by Krishna and his dance partners in any other rasa dance, but it was very unique. It's a very unique rasa dance. And the acharyas write, quote, the ecstasy of the participants occasionally reached such heights that the roots of the tree also appeared to be dancing, and the trunk of the tree seemed to be swaying in ecstasy. Because all these trees, remember, they're fully conscious, fully enlightened, pure devotees, kalpavriksha, desire trees. You can imagine how happy this particular tree was in this particular place in Vrindavan. And so Shastra concludes, quote, the only ones to feel excluded from this unique festival of dancing were the demigods, who were unable to see through the tree's canopy from the airplanes above, because it was so thick. They couldn't see this Ras Leela. Indeed, the Shastra says, they could only hear the sounds of this most unique rasa dance. Hare Krishna. So, I hope, I pray, that today's lecture has left you hankering for more nectar about Vrindavan. And this is my service. These days, this is my service. So I'll do my best to try to satisfy your hankerings in a couple days, every Tuesday and Friday. But before leaving, to further increase your hankering, we'll leave you with a very long, tantalizing verse from a book we quoted from about a month and a half ago, Preyo Bhakti Rasaranava by Nayananda Das, cowherd boy. Very beautiful, he gives a very beautiful, detailed description of Krishna. So please allow me to finish today. This will be like, like that we have that saying, hors d'oeuvre. I think it's a French word, but it's common in English. Hors d'oeuvre means that the host gives you a little something to get your appetite going before the main meal. Maybe some peanuts like that, some crackers and some apple juice, and then, you start getting hungry. And then when the main meal comes, hors d'oeuvre. So this beautiful description of Krishna will act as an hors d'oeuvre for next Tuesday's lecture. Please allow me. Krishna has the complexion of a fresh rain cloud. He shines like millions of suns, but is as cool as millions of moons. His beautiful yellow cloth shines like lightning. The garland in his crown is like a line of cranes flying in the sky. He has an attractive body which is eternally nayovana. His beauty defeats millions of cupids. His cowherd friends are absorbed in bliss as Krishna becomes King of Vrindavan. His beautiful brows defeat the bow of Cupid. The dots of sandalwood on his cheeks have the beauty of the moon. In his locks of hair is a peacock feather. He has musk tilak with a line of sandalwood on his forehead. He has a yellow cloth around his waist with a belt. His arms, like elephant trunks, are decorated with bracelets. His nails shine like millions of moons. His palms shine like red shoots. His feet shine with curved anklets. Seeing all this, Cupid becomes greedy. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhus. Yeah, be back in a couple days. Hare Krishna. Shishi Gaur Nitai ki, Shishi Krishna Balaram ki, Shishi Radha Shamasundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, the 12 forests of Vrindavan ki, Braj Mandala ki, Go Premanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe, Sham Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Ho. Hare Krishna.